Hi, I'm Sasan Kasravi. I swear I have teeth. I feel like when I talk, it doesn't look like I have teeth. I have them. They're small, but I chew. Anyway, this is Proteus Debate Academy. We are a YouTube channel that is trying to do its part to decrease some of the equity gaps in speech and debate by offering free, high-quality coaching content. If you didn't know that and aren't familiar with the channel, then I think you should look around after this video. That'd be rude if you... No, we have, I think this will be our 78th video. And I think the videos that we have up must total... I counted it as over 50 hours of content a little while ago. So there's a lot on here. That's interviews and topic lectures and regular concept lectures and round analyses and discussions. We got it all. But in this video, since I do want to talk about coaching, and I'm going to get into some stuff that might be considered somewhat controversial, not like Israel-Palestine controversial, like I disagree with your coaching advice controversial. I also want to establish a little bit of my credibility as someone who would talk about coaching. I've been coaching at the college level at Diablo Valley College, a community college in Northern California, for the past 7 or 8 years. In that time, we have been the top overall college program in speech and debate in Northern California for most of those years. We won the state championship for community colleges last year. We got second place in the nation. We were the top community college program at NFA, which is the big, like, 4-year championship. We're a good program. And I've had a lot of success in coaching debate at that level. I've also been working for debate academies for like 5 years now, and worked for some of the top academies in the country and gotten those jobs because I'm a very good coach. I've gotten national recognition. I've received the Colley Taylor Fellowship Award, which every resume I've had to write reminds me that it recognizes the coach selected by competitors in their region to best uphold the values of forensics. I think that might be word for word accurate. I've worked with students. I think the youngest person I've had to teach speech and debate to was in kindergarten. I've also, no, it must have been first grade. But I've worked with a lot of 3rd to 5th graders. I've worked with a lot of middle schoolers. I've worked with a good amount of high schoolers. And I've worked with a lot of college students. And that's been in Parley, Public Forum, LD, SPAR, IPDA, Ronald Reagan Debate, which I didn't know was a thing. And maybe you didn't know was a thing. The debates are about... whether people deserve to starve to death. And turns out the answer is no. It's not about that. Okay. All of that is to say that I have experience and have developed a reputation as somebody who's very effective at getting new competitors good at speech and debate quickly. Sometimes on the high school circuit, competitors will take years before going into varsity. At the community college level with my program, people will be competing against the highest level of competition within 3 months of first hearing what speech and debate is. And so I want to talk about that. And so who is this video for? Well, if I can click on this thing, this video is for 2 groups of people. One is people who are looking to improve at coaching. Maybe you're already a coach. Maybe you are looking to become a coach, or you are considering it. You're a teacher or something, and your school's starting a club, and people are asking you, hey, can you do the whatever? I got you. a big part of this video is about the concept that you don't need to have a lot of experience in speech and debate to be a good speech and debate coach. This video is also for students, competitors, current competitors, either because they want to become good peer coaches, which I think is really important and helps you as well as your team, but also because people look for coaches. People hire coaches directly. People try to find coaches for their clubs or their schools or whatever, and I want to help inform people on what I think they should be looking for. The first thing I feel like I should get into before that is, do you need a coach to do speech and debate? The answer is, it's very difficult without it. So I'll explain in a second that it's very difficult to do speech and debate without a coach or resources, because it's a game that isn't really like something in real life, right? It's not just going in and expressing your opinion about things, but it's very difficult to learn without playing, and it's really difficult to navigate the system of going to your first competitions and all that without any real idea. But with that said, say you figure out what the basics are, you figure out the rules, you go to some competitions. Yes, you can compete without a coach. Or let's say you already know and you're like, I just kind of want to go on my own. Yes, you can compete without a coach, but it becomes very difficult to improve without some version of the concepts that I'm going to focus on in everything from here down, right? Beneath scalability. But that role doesn't have to be by somebody you're paying. It doesn't have to be by a teacher. You just need some outside support certainly in order to be competitive at a high level. That's my opinion. Now, as I said, we're going to get into the difference between coaching and resources. So this YouTube channel and its many hours of content is not coaching. I am not coaching you. I'm not coaching anyone else for the purposes of how I'm going to talk about coaching in this video. Resources are very helpful. Lectures, either on specific types of arguments or concepts, or on a specific topic. Arguments, briefs, advice on how to make a certain argument. These are all resources for the purpose of this discussion, not coaching. Coaching is someone observing your performance and giving you advice and feedback specific to how you're doing. And I guess if I did a round analysis video on a round that you were competing in, and I said, here's what this child should do differently instead, then that what I would say is coaching. But yeah, so this doesn't really apply to the vast majority of stuff that you buy or watch or do to get better at debate. Why? Why is it that I would say that this, like briefs, YouTube channels like mine, that's not really coaching, and ultimately I think coaching is more conducive to success than resources. I think you'll figure it out. Students can find resources on their own. That's what stuff like this channel is for. But it's very difficult for students to figure out the things that a coach can provide for them on their own. So why doesn't that exist? The reason is that it's very difficult to scale. This is not meant as a detraction against any organization or other YouTube channel or academy or anything like that. But consider it from the perspective of someone creating classes, creating content, creating anything based around a curriculum. The purpose of a curriculum is to remove the significance of the role that the educator plays. In other words, if you had the best teacher in the world, a curriculum would by definition be a setback. Because, one, the person that wrote the curriculum is not as experienced or as insightful or effective as teaching the material as a person teaching the actual class. So just let that person do what they're doing. In that sense, a lot of curriculums are made so that you can get a inexperienced or less experienced person teaching something outside of their wheelhouse. Go in, say this, ask these questions, assign this homework. The other reason why this stuff needs to scale and why that affects the reason why things are more resources than coaching is because it's difficult to do a lot of these things in large numbers. So on my debate squad at a community college where I feel that I do my highest quality direct coaching, I know I picked it up and I'm just going to take a sip. I wasn't taking a long enough pause, and then I was tired of holding it. You're very accommodating, and I appreciate you personally. When I'm coaching at the college, I never really have more than 6 competitors that I am taking to the national championships. Usually that number is around 4. I'll start out with 12 competitors that I'm working with, maybe sometimes a little bit more through the fall, but gradually as we get into championship season, that starts to shrink. And most of my highest quality coaching is framed around 2 to 6 people. Even outside of changing anything else, it is very difficult to scale that up to, let's say, 30 people, which is not an unreasonable number for a academy because they're classrooms. They need a lot of people because they need to pay teachers and stuff like that, right? I'm not going to have conjecture about what an average semester if you don't know what a debate academy is, it's like a club team, right? If your school doesn't offer speech and debate as something you can join, it's kind of like speech and debate tutoring. It's pretty popular in Southern California, growing certainly in Northern California. I think there's some in New York. I don't really know much else because I don't live there. And I don't go to high school tournaments. But yeah, so trying to have an effective ratio of lots of students and as few teachers as you can get away with makes it difficult to scale these things up. So if you're looking at somewhere to get coaching, it's not that those aren't really useful and really helpful. They're often very great things if you can afford them, right? Or a lot of them have scholarships. Do that. I don't know. This isn't a pitch for academies or an apology for academies or an endorsement. I don't know. They exist, but a lot of them are trying to teach based on a curriculum, and that's really difficult to do. A lot of new coaches, a lot of people who are like, hey, I'm starting to do this, can you give me some advice or whatever, they're looking for curriculums. Especially people who are like high school teachers and whatever are looking to do this. They're looking for, hey, first teach this, first teach that, whatever. And that just doesn't scale to a large group of people. The reason for that is because even though debate isn't really like a regular thing you do all the time, it's similar enough that some people are going to be pretty good at some things, and some people are going to be really good at other things. And some people are going to have these weaknesses and those weaknesses, and nobody's going to really move at the same pace. It's more like how martial arts classes work, right? Where it's like you start with a white belt, And once you've demonstrated certain skills and certain abilities, you move on to the next belt. But the only organizations which claim to have like a predetermined path from white belt to black belt and how long it's going to take are like McDojos, right? Like that you find in like the mall, and they like have 8-year-olds with black belts in jiu-jitsu who I'm certain I could beat in a fight. I don't fight 8-year-olds often. I've never been in a fight in my life, but I'm pretty sure I can. Whenever I have like a young kid that's like, I'm a black belt in Taekwondo, I'm like, I don't know what that means, because I'm confident that you are not a threat to me physically. Like, what the... Anyway, but that's why I have this, so that if I go on a tangent, I'm like, right, scalability. So that's something to consider, right? The things that I'm going to discuss here don't really scale that well. And that is a limitation of high-quality coaching. A lot of people who are starting to coach will need to coach a lot of people in order to make ends meet if you're trying to make any money off of it, right? At least for now. I know that there's some organizations that exist that are trying to be platforms for coaches to find students. I know at least one new one is going to start up. I don't know what the future looks like, but I know right now, if you are like a fresh out of high school kid trying to make some money, you're not going to charge one student several $1,000s, hopefully. But that'll just mean that you'll need to take on lots and lots of students. And what I'm going to describe here is going to be difficult to scale. But everything henceforth, what was 17 minutes? I've had single tangents longer than 17 minutes. I think we are on track. So let's now talk about what I actually think high quality coaching is about. The first is about observing students. What does that mean? Earlier today, this space that I'm in is where I work out of, but I also record music, so it's like also now a music studio. Look at this thing. That's a microphone with a. I got some stuff now. It's pretty cool. And I had Paul in here earlier today, and he was recording some guitar stuff. And I'm listening to him play this guitar part, and I said, Paul, you need to, for this part that you're playing, like, that doesn't sound right. You need to not choke the strings after. You need to let that ring out. And he was like, oh, okay, I didn't realize I was doing that. Does it again, and I was like, Paul, and he said, I will guarantee you that I did not choke the string that time. There is no way. And luckily we were recording, so I hit play, and you could hear him do it, and he was like, that's weird. It is very difficult for human beings to do something that requires a lot of focus and attention on the performance, but also and like taking in surroundings and adapting and all of these things that we have to do with debate, while also maintaining an outside perspective. There's a really good I call it a game, but it's not really like I don't think it meets the technical definition of a game. But when I work with younger kids and I'm just trying to get them to understand like their tics and their body habits or whatever, we'll play a game where I'll ask them to stand up straight and just not move. Don't move and tell me your name. And if you can do it without moving, then you've passed this level. And they're like, okay, they say their name. Great, now count to 10. Okay, cool. Now recite the letters of the alphabet without singing. And gradually you start to see their fingers start to twitch. And then you say, okay, now say the alphabet backwards. And they will move more, and if they have a tick, they'll start swaying. And you can say, do like back and forth, like A, Z, B, Y, C, X. And at that point, they'll be even more difficult. And what will make it really even harder on top of that is, like, do all of that, and then I want you to clap your hands every time I clap. Like, the more you are observing and thinking about things, just the less physical control you have over your body, but also just less awareness you have of what's going on. Debates are really, really stressful. They're very stressful, but they also require a lot of high-level thinking. Like, you're reading, you're paying attention to the judge, you're thinking about what's going on. Most debaters are really unaware of what they're doing, what they sound like, what they even said. A lot of my coaching is just knowing what the debater said and then asking them, like, what they said, and then just seeing the differences. So when you're observing a competitor, your goal is not just to be a witness. Your goal is to try to identify what they are not seeing. What is this person doing that they're not aware they are doing? What is this person not doing that they're not aware they're not doing? We're not concerned yet about whether that thing is important to succeed or it matters or whatever. It just tells you a lot about the specific student and will resolve a lot of problems later on. A lot of people who know a lot about debate but are not good coaches, which is a lot of people. Teaching is an independent skill from knowing about debate. The best guitar teacher is not necessarily the best guitar player. The best guitar player is not necessarily the best guitar teacher. Same with any other skill, right? So what matters is what's going to help in solving problems later is identifying. I remember what I was saying. Great. People who aren't very good at coaching. They'll see someone do something and they'll be like, no, don't do that. Do this. This is what you should do. Okay? Did you get that? Do it this way. You ready? Go. And then the person will go and they'll do the same thing wrong again. And they're like, no, you're not listening to me. You're not because I said not to do that, and so do it this way. Okay, you ready? Understanding what a person notices and doesn't notice about their performance. When do they stop noticing those things? Is there an order that things go? Like, this is the first thing that they stop noticing. This is the next thing that they stop noticing. Is really important, because when you're in those situations where you told the person what to do and they're still not doing it, you need to identify what the components of that are. Like, what are the things that person is unaware of? Are they unaware of their volume? Are they unaware of the expression on a judge's face, right? A lot of times judges are going like this when someone's saying an argument, and the person is just talking and doesn't, or they're like sighing, or they're like giving them a wrap it up, and they're just completely unaware of, right? So you're a second set of eyes for that competitor, and that will also help determine like a language between you where you can try to identify, okay, this person's not doing this. What are the barriers that are getting in their way? And that's something that paying someone to write a case for you is not going to resolve. The next thing is changing their priorities. And this is a really, really, really important part of being a coach. As I mentioned, I coach community college competitors who are brand new to speech and debate. And we get them good very quickly. And you would think, especially since I run a YouTube channel where I make lots of content, that what I do is some form of getting a lot of content into these people's heads very quickly. But in fact, it's kind of the opposite approach. When I have students who are starting in speech and debate, I can't physically forbid them, and it sounds weird to say you're not allowed to, but I don't want them to watch, read, talk to anyone about speech and debate that is not me or someone who I know is going to tell them the right things. When I was like 13, there was a show out called Rurouni Kenshin. It was an anime that would play on Cartoon Network, and it's about this samurai, and in it they have these little Japanese practice katanas that are made out of bamboo, and they practice the art of kendo. And I wanted to take kendo classes so badly, and my parents, apparently, I didn't know this at the time, didn't have any money. I just thought that, like, my dad liked leftover burrito. Not left like other people's. Like, he would just take all of the leftovers and just put it in a tortilla and call it a burrito. And I was like, these burritos are awful. And I thought everybody had Costco pizza 3 times a week. But I don't know. They took me to one night of a kendo class to kind of check it out, and maybe they thought they could afford it, and then they talked to the people, and they're like, we can't afford this. But in any case, they were talking to the head instructor, and, you know, they're immigrant parents, so they're like, how can this be homework? They're like, well, is there stuff that he should do at home? Are there, like, practice routines? Like, what should he be doing? And the guy said, no, he should never practice at home. And the reason for that is because when he practices here, and I see him do something wrong one time, I can see that, and I can stop it, and I can prevent it from establishing a bad habit. If he goes home and practice it, he'll practice it the wrong way 300 times, and he'll never be able to change how he's doing it, or it'll be way harder to change it. Debate is so much the same way. Developing a bad habit is really, really, really difficult to correct. And that's why at the college level, I get a little bit nervous when somebody joins our team and they have previous experience, because I don't know what they learned on their own or someone else taught them, and it's really difficult for me to make them unlearn all of those things. But that's not how students, competitors think, right? They always feel like they have the thing that they're on down, and they're just ready for the next thing. And they have a very difficult time of prioritizing skills and what they should be doing and what they should be learning effectively. So, for example, the classic, go on reddit.com/r/debate and check out the posts from the last 3 days on any given day, whatever year you're watching this. And there will be a lot of questions from beginners asking about the critique. And the reason why is because they think that it matters to them. But a lot of them are just like, what is this? This is super weird, and I'm curious about it. But a lot of it will be like, how do I run this critique? How do I answer this critique? And my competitors, as soon as they find out that critique exists, like, I put them in open, and they're like, what is a critique? All they want to know. How do I answer the K, though? I'm really scared of that. So my job is to keep them on the things that actually matter. And your question now is, What are the things that actually matter? And the answer to that is there's no set list. And that's why curriculums don't really work as effectively. But here is how my approach works. When you have someone who's new to debate, you are going to give them enough experience to go to their first tournament without losing every round. For us in parliamentary debate, which is you don't have a set case, you don't have to research, you don't have to do whatever, that means that they know the general structure of an advantage, meaning that they know, like, you talk about how stuff is right now, and then someone does something, and then here's how things get better or worse, and here's why that matters. You do that for 2 arguments. And the affirmative will have a plan, which is how they want to implement what the topic talks about. The negative doesn't have a plan. They just say that plan is bad. And we'll go in. And they'll do 2 practice rounds. The first practice round, we might not even have impacts. We'll just be like, just go through the arguments in this order. Beginning, middle, end, right? Like, what things are like now, what happens, what that causes. Second practice round, they'll try the opposite end, the opposite side of the debate, and this time have some impacts in there. Just say a little bit about why that matters. Okay. Then you're ready to go to your first tournament. I don't teach them counter plans. I don't teach them any specific type of argument. I don't teach them. You are ready to go to your first tournament and get lucky and win 2 of your first 6 rounds. Some people will do a lot better. Some people will do 3 practice rounds or whatever. But generally speaking, all you want is for them to go in and get those first few ballots. And in the process, not get so discouraged that they never want to try it again. In a evidentiary format, I would say, here is the case. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about what this case says. Here's what the affirmative says. Here's what the negative says. Ask me some questions about this. I'm actually not going to remember to talk about this later. That is a really important concept. I was just teaching with someone a couple weeks ago, and this person's a very successful competitor and good and whatever back in their time. But when they were teaching, they had a PowerPoint. Here's this thing, here's this thing, here's this thing, here's this thing. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll go on to the next slide. That's exactly how he did it. But he's talking to middle schoolers. And even in high school, even in college, people do not respond well to any questions. Who has questions? They certainly won't just raise their hand out of the blue if they have questions the vast majority of the time. But even asking, does anyone have any questions, is, according to some pedagogical research at the college level, very, very ineffective. Like, my college tells professors not straight up, don't ask it that way. Part of the reason why is because it puts a lot of pressure on the students, because they don't want to feel like they're holding the class back or slowing things down. Part of it is because they feel like if they don't understand, there's some sort of negative consequence. This person, when one person finally asked a question and they said, well, I actually did answer that question earlier. And it's like, why are you punishing the only person that actually asked the question? Now no one wants to do it. And they will just not really understand it and will not say anything. And then you'll be like, but you're doing it wrong. So, lots of different strategies. Some people will treat it like a discussion. Hey, so let's talk about that. Let's discuss that. And naturally, questions will arise out of that. Some people will say, what are your thoughts on that? What I like to do is I just straight up, every so often, I'll be like, okay, you have to ask me 7 questions. It can be about what we just talked about. It can be about something else. It could be about me. It could be about the world. you have to ask me 7 questions or 10 questions or 15 questions, depending on how much time we have and how many people there are. And it will be torture for them. They will not want to move on. Like, they will want to just skip that. No one will want to ask a question. But gradually, a couple of people will start asking questions, and then you'll get the, is this a question, and then you'll be like, haha, no, it is not. And you'll get through a bunch of nonsense questions and some questions about you, if you're comfortable answering those. How old are you? Do you have teeth? Yes, I'm not a toothless person. They're just small. They're not ground down or anything. They're there. Anyway. But eventually you'll start to get questions, because people will feel like it's time for questions. Everybody's asking questions, and hey, if I ask an actual question, we'll be able to move on quicker, and we won't be like stuck here in this uncomfortable silence. That's my tip for that. Back to how I teach people getting ready for their first tournament. So you work with them, figure out what they want to know, blah, blah, blah. If I'm working on a evidentiary format of debate, I will make sure that they ask questions about this case. And we'll do a practice on the affirmative, a practice on the negative. That is enough. Go in. Go into your first round. Put them in novice, and the 2 worst case scenarios in order of severity. The first bad scenario is they win 0 rounds. That's not the worst case scenario. The second worst case scenario is that they win every single round. That is awful. It's awful for a few reasons. One, because as a coach, like, if you enter someone in novice and they beat all the other novices hands down, no one's going to think, wow, you must be a very good coach. They're going to think, wow, you must be an asshole who entered someone in novice who should not have been a novice. The other part of the issue is that people need losses and ballots to tell them what to work on. When I'm coaching people do not trust me. They won't believe something matters until they lose. And that's part of the reason why we have to move them up pretty quickly, is because we don't want them to win too much. Because otherwise they just won't believe that certain bad habits matter. And finally, you don't want them to develop an ego and not listen to you. But finally, the reason for that is because your judges and your judging pool are what determines what someone's priorities should be. They'll go to their tournament, have some fun, win some rounds, make some friends. But most importantly, they will lose. Your job as a coach is to read the losing ballots, have your competitors read the losing ballots, and then you are going to identify common themes. I don't care if it's a parent judge, I don't care if it's a lay judge, or a flow judge, or a flay judge. You are going to look for common themes. And once you've found those common themes, you are either going to already know how to improve that, or you're going to find some resources. You're going to find some videos, talk to some other people, talk to more experienced debaters, talk to more experienced coaches. Figure it out. Find the solution, right? Once you kind of have identified the problem, what you also want to do is you want to have your competitor read the ballots and then ask them whether they have identified any common issues. Because you will be shocked how often competitors will read a ballot that just straight up says, this is exactly why you lost, because you did this thing, you need to develop this skill. And they will read it, and you'll ask them, what did the ballot say? And they'll be like, it didn't really say anything. I don't know. It kind of didn't make sense. I don't know. It was a bad round. It was a weird judge. I don't know. It just kind of didn't say anything. And then I'll say, so it didn't say anything to do with this this thing that we've talked about before? No, that didn't come up. I'll be like, okay, can you read this part out loud? And they'll start to read it, and they're like, oh, okay. I mean, it said that, but like, okay, all right, but none of the other ballots said it. And then, no, okay, that's fine. We'll go 2 ballots later, and it comes up again. And like, you need to do that for people to actually start to realize, like, oh, this is actually a common thing. And those things create the priorities. The rest of my curriculum is based on just the idea that I won't teach you how to run or answer any argument until you lose to it first. So counterplans, I do not teach my competitors counterplans until they have already lost to a counterplan. I don't teach them topicality or theory until they've already lost to a theory argument. They will have never heard of it before, and they'll go in and they'll be like, what on earth is happening? That's a really important experience to have for a couple reasons. First is they have to figure it out. And by seeing how they try to figure it out, you will quickly identify which parts of it are intuitive to them, which parts of it are the parts that we actually have to work on. The lecture model and the high scalability model is really ineffective because you spend a lot of time trying to teach stuff that the student doesn't need to learn or doesn't need explained to them. They don't need to practice. They don't need to focus on those things. But also important is the idea that now when you want to teach it to them, they have a very specific context already for how this would work. It's no longer a purely hypothetical thing that could maybe come up or maybe not come up. And this is very difficult to grasp for students. It's, okay, so what you're saying is, in this specific instance, when this specific person said this specific thing, what I needed to do in order to win was say this. Yes, that is what I'm saying. Okay, they go out and they lose some other way. And maybe it's on the same thing. Maybe it's on a topicality again, but they probably won't lose for the exact same reasons in the exact same way. And then you try to fix that problem. And then you go on. All of your only priority as a coach should be for your students not to lose for the same reasons multiple times. And that's what I talk about with my competitors as we're going to some of our really important building tournaments. Let's say it's 2 tournaments before our state championships or our nationals or something like that. Or it's practice round, right? I'm telling them, your goal is not to win this tournament. Your goal is to get ballots that say things that we haven't read before. And that will just indicate what is the next thing to work on. That's also very, 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 very true of speech. What you don't want, the ultimate waste of time, is to have a competitor go to a competition, get whatever results they get, and then get back ballots that say exactly what you thought they would say. What was even the point of that, right? Most of the learning will happen at tournaments. Partly because you're doing a ton of rounds in a short amount of time, but also because that's the stuff that metastasizes, because it has consequences, because it matters. And the rest of it is just framing around the tournament experience, getting those ballots, and then setting those priorities. If someone wants to learn how to answer a critique, it's really great to tell them first you have to lose to a critique, because probably they won't actually lose to a critique for a really long time. If competitors are left to their devices, what they will do, if anyone learning any skill and looking at a curriculum is left to their devices and allowed to do this, what they will do is they'll start with the very beginner stuff, And as soon as they feel that they're starting to get it, they will skip right past everything or skim through it and go straight to the advanced stuff and be like, I want to learn to do the advanced stuff. And the thing is, most people doing theory debate, most people doing critical debate are not good at it because of that exact reason. They'll get good enough at it to beat the people who have no idea what they're talking about. They'll beat the novices, but they'll speed ahead, beat the novices, and then eventually go up to the next level of debate. And eventually they'll reach a level where people know how to answer critiques. People know how to answer theory. You're not really like shocking anyone with your ability to run any particular argument. And then they just won't have the fundamental skills of flowing, like coming up with turns, reading strong disadvantages, asking effective questions, just way more fundamental stuff. And then they just hit a wall where they just can't get any better. Like, they can beat the people who don't know how to answer the thing they run, and they can't beat anyone that does know how to answer it, and then they're kind of stuck. I have a whole video on this called Why You Stopped Improving at Debate. That's almost always the case. This is another thing that I think is a huge part of being an effective coach, is framing what your competitors' priorities are, not based on what they want to learn, but based on what will fix the actual reason they are losing currently. If you are a competitor and you don't have a dedicated coach, or you have the kind of coach where you tell them what you want to learn, you have to learn to do this on your own. You have to learn to focus on why you are losing. Identify why you're losing, observing all that, and then focus on that. Okay. The next thing is emotional support. I don't know what to tell you. It's important. And no brief or, person who's agreed to write files for you is going to be able to do that. Some of the most talented competitors that I've worked with have also been the least confident in themselves. And in a verbal performance thing like that, like speech and debate, like that plays a huge role. People psych themselves out and people get extremely nervous. People want to quit. Talented people that get a lot out of this activity, that want to do it, will just find a lot of reasons to think that they can't. And your job is to tell them that they can. And it helps if you are a person that reached a level of success that they want to reach. Because you can then tell them, I know for a fact that you can do this. Because I did it and you're as talented as I was or more. And the fact of the matter is that I have not yet worked with a student who was coachable. Got a whole video on coachability. Who was coachable and motivated, but was not capable of becoming a national champion at the community college level, which isn't easy by any means, right? I can't promise you that you're going to be the best in the country, but the fact of the matter is that entering the top 5% of competitors, it just is not based on any inherent skills. And I would say that about a lot of national champions. You would think that a lot of national champions are smarter than you, or better informed, or they have better resources, or whatever. But that's just really usually not the case. There was a study on athletes. A psychological study on athletes. With an athlete, you can measure. Let's take swimmers. I think that's what the study was on. They took swimmers, and they measured things like their physical abilities, their the like precision and accuracy of like their strokes and stuff like that, and they essentially just categorize them into how skilled they were at swimming. So it's like this person has all of the like knowledge and physical ability as this other person. Then they took those people and they gave them these tests that are designed to measure how honest you are with yourself. So essentially they ask you questions that invite you to think negative thoughts about yourself. And what the study found is that among competitors that are otherwise equally capable, equally skilled, equally talented, all of the competitors that have an easier time lying to themselves, which is one way of putting it, but framing what their beliefs are and shutting things out and just telling themselves they can do it, all of them performed better than people at their same skill level who very easily doubt themselves and confront whatever. And my point is not that like being honest with yourself isn't important and good. It is important and good. But what I will say is that the ability to perform something is directly countered by your hesitancy and self-doubt. And I am someone that has a lot of hesitancy and self-doubt. And you just need to practice shutting that out. And after you've done the thing, you can then bring that honest person back. So in creative fields, music and especially writing. Oh my God, in writing. Oh! There are basically 80% of amateurs in music and in writing. 80% of the people producing work that you can read, right? People whose short stories you can read, people whose screenplays you can read, people whose music you can listen to. 80% of those people are quite untalented, quite unskilled in that field. Less than like average, even. If you took like a person of average skill in music, I would say like there are people that are 80% of the people who actually produce work you can listen to are less skilled than people who aren't even getting songs finished and whatever. Part of the reason for that is that these are the groups that have the least doubt in themselves, and they will just go in and not second guess themselves and just make work. But the reason why those people also tend to, despite how the volume of work they sometimes put out. I listened to this, I was on this web forum for metal musicians, and this guy was like, do you have any feedback for me on this song? And I listened to it, and it was bad. Like, not like, oh, that's not my taste, like just wrong, right? Like just elements weren't like in time with each other. Like, it's not avant-garde, like it's not what this person did on purpose, like it's just bad. And I saw what the person beneath that commented, and they were like, like, what is going on here? Like, did you do this one thing? And this guy's like, yeah, I like chopped it up and I put it all together in this way because I actually can't play the guitar part. So I just had to kind of like do this thing that made it sound horrible to compensate for the fact that he couldn't play the guitar part. And, you know, I went back and I listened to the link that he posted and whatever, and I saw in the corner that, like, oh, this is like not just a song, this is like an album. And I clicked on the artist name, and this guy has released 8 albums in the last 3 years. And I was just awed by how someone can have that much experience but that little skill. And the reason for it is the people who are able to just do things without hesitation, without self-doubt, those people also have a really hard time being self-critics and recognizing where they need to improve and that they didn't do a good job, and how and then seek out in a humble way where to improve. Recognize where they're still making mistakes. Compare what they're doing to what they want to be doing. It takes doing both to produce enough work to get the experience and skill, but also be critical enough to figure it out. And that is a very painful experience for people to have. Becoming good at a skill where you fail in a public way, you feel that you disappoint people who are counting on you or who cared about your success, is a deeply painful, embarrassing, uncomfortable experience. And as a coach, you have to alleviate that. You have to be aware of that. You have to care that it's happening. And you have to help your students through it. Because they can get through it. It's not that hard. Debate is not that hard. Most people just don't know how to do it. There's very few tournaments where, in fact, it's like really at like, take the biggest tournament, I would say from octofinals is the cutoff where it's like, okay, now everyone actually understands how to do debate, and now it's just based on skill. I think even that is an exaggeration, though. In high school, the TOC, I would not say every TOC qualified competitor has a great understanding of debate, like a really great understanding of debate. I don't know, and I feel like once you do have a really great understanding of debate, it doesn't matter how fast you can write, or how fast you can talk, or how much you know about the world. Paul had the best 2-year record in college parlay history, like won the most rounds, lost the fewest rounds, and like doesn't know where Norway is, like has carpal tunnel in both wrists, like can't write that fast. He could speak pretty fast, but certainly not faster than the people he was competing against. What matters is your understanding of strategy, your ability to connect things that you're seeing in this debate round to the most optimal way of responding to it. And those are things anyone is capable of doing. I am confident any competitor can make it to qualifying for the TOC. And what matters isn't what I think. What matters is what their coach thinks. And your job is to believe that about them. The next thing is that you need to be an advocate for them. Things will happen to your students that are unfair, shitty experiences. And you need to go to bat for them. You need to be willing to jeopardize social connections and how someone in an organization might think of you or whatever. Like, let's say something happens that is really unacceptable. I'm not even going into like legally and like let's just say like someone in a debate round broke a rule, right? You need to be the person that goes to bat for them, not put them in the spot of trying to argue with the judge or try to file a protest. You need to be the person that does that. They need to trust you they need to be able to handle that situation, walk away from it, and go to you and tell you what happened so that you can address the problem for them. For several reasons. One, a lot of times, we're talking about children. You should not put it on their shoulders to fix these problems on their own. Second, even when you're not talking about children, like, you don't want to discourage people arguing with judges and whatever, right? It's just not effective. They don't have it's not as effective as you taking care of this problem. And a lot of times that's really uncomfortable because you're going to these people who are kind of like more significant players in the community and are better known, and they're busy and they're upset with you for bothering them, and you should handle it well, but you need to show your competitors that they can trust you with these issues. You need to show your competitors that they can trust you. Because if your competitors don't trust you, then they're not going to take risks for you. And if you want them to grow and you want them to improve, they need to be willing to take those risks. They need to be willing to go to a competition that they don't feel that they have any place at and lose, and just know that that's a part of the process that will get them very good very quick. They need to trust you that a certain team that they're worried about hitting isn't the most important thing. They need to trust you that if they put in the work, they can do this or whatever. It's just so much a part of being a coach is having that trust from your competitors, and you need to deserve that trust. And that's what that point is about. I don't know. Sorry, I'm just thinking about unfair, shitty things that have happened to my competitors before. It's upsetting. It's upsetting. And I don't care who I have to argue with or start shit with. Like, those are my kids, all right? You don't do that. Okay, yeah, problem solving. Problem solving, we already talked about it. It's the easiest part of the job. Honestly, like, once you understand... okay, so like, let's say it's like, they're struggling with answering counterplans. I'm not really that good at answering counterplans. Yeah, the part of that problem solving is you should figure out good ways to answer counterplans and then teach that to them or give them access to that information. But the fact of the matter is that when I was competing, it didn't take very long for me to be a better at debate than my coach. And a lot of the problem solving there had to do around, like technical stuff, and this person's stand isn't working, and or even like these two people aren't like getting along as debate partners, or this person wants to be debate partners with this person, and but actually this person wants to be debate partners with this third person, but they don't know how to tell this person without hurting their feelings. And also, these two people are actually just decided on their own that they're going to become debate partners, but they're not available on the same day of the week to practice. And this is where you need to be the person who is in charge of making decisions. I guess that's really the most important part of the problem solving part. I didn't know what I was going to talk about. I just wrote some stuff down. You need to be the person who makes decisions for the team. You are not a observer of these people's debate careers. You are a decision maker. You decide, we are not going to that tournament. We are going to this tournament. You are not debating with this person. You are debating with this person. A lot of that comes with backlash. Might not be too strong a word for it, where by definition you're going to have to say no to people. You're going to have to disappoint them, probably frustrate them. And if they try to go around what you're saying and decisions that you are making, there needs to be consequences for that, right? Not like violently, but you need to be the most important coaching point that I can give you for running a team is no competitor is bigger than the team. You need to be willing to tell your best, most talented debate competitor that they are not allowed to go to this tournament because they are violating some expectation. And I don't mean like they are making other people unsafe. Certainly you should not be like allowing for that, condoning that. But no, what I just mean is that you are the one that needs to make decisions for what the team does, and you need to be willing to tell the best competitor, like, hey, I'm sorry, like, you can't go to this. Like, you can't let it get to a point where someone feels that they are more important than how something affects the team overall and the other competitors overall. That's really important because speech and debate works best as a team sport. And if you have a happy, healthy team with enthusiastic people who want to help each other, who want to come back next year, who even after they've graduated will be doing coaching for you or judging or giving advice, maintaining a relationship with those competitors, your team will become so much better, so much faster, be so much more pleasant for people to be on than if you sacrifice the overall health of the team for the sake of some competitor that felt like they were very important and they wanted to make some sort of decision that was not for other people's benefit. I'm not saying everything has to be that you can't say, oh, like, this tournament is actually for this person or whatever. But that should be a reward for being a good teammate, working hard, and so on. For doing an exemplary job of the things that you are trying to enforce. Not something that you do despite them being bad members of the team. So that's a major part of that, right? You need to be an authority on the team. And another really big reason for that is because that takes a lot of burden off of students. You wouldn't think so, but it is a huge burden off of students for them not to have to explain why they aren't debate partners with somebody else. That's when I'm coaching novices, I say, hey, you can tell me who you want to be partners with, and I will tell you who your partner is. And a lot of the times it's the people that wanted to be partners that are partners, because there's no good reason for them not to be. And like, I'm not going to arbitrarily, it's not like there's a secret to it. If two people want to be, especially when they're starting out, nobody has like skill sets that, oh, this person's more of a second speaker and this person's also more of a second speaker. Like, don't worry about any of that, right? But there's also some logistical things that you can keep in mind. No, if you can't ever practice together, you're not available for the same tournaments for the first 6 months of the year, no, you're not going to be debate partners. But beyond that, like, even though I'm mostly letting these kids do what they want to, they now no longer have to worry that if there's something they don't want to do, somebody they don't want to be partners with, that they have to explain their decision there. It'll always be their coach saying that's not happening, and your competitors can be confused with you and upset with you and whatever, but that takes a lot of the burden off of your competitors, and you're the grown-up even if you're a kid, because you're the authority figure, and that's part of it. That's the gist of it. I mean, there's really nothing else that I want to go over that immediately stands out, but obviously this isn't a curriculum. Obviously this isn't fully comprehensive. But hopefully you can see that most of this doesn't really have directly to do with reading a lot of news or cutting a lot of cards or whatever. Like, that's work, but honestly, your students will benefit from doing that work themselves more than they will benefit from you doing that for them. Those resources are important. I'm glad they exist. Your students are welcome to look through them. I try to limit what they are reading and doing. And that's why when I'm on like the internet or whatever, and someone's like, hey, I just started debate, any tips? I never say, yeah, watch my YouTube channel. If I respond, my response is, your job is to go to your first tournament with some idea of what you're doing, and then you're going to read those ballots and figure out how to improve based on what they told you lost because of. Good coaches are just people that facilitate that happening. And to bring this all the way back around, that's really difficult to sell, because it's a lot of one-on-one work. Can't do it for a ton of people at the same time, and you can't make it a like do-it-yourself curriculum where you're like, hey, sign up for whatever and then you can learn how to do these things. It just doesn't work that way. Those things are great. They produce good competitors. There's a lot of organizations that teach people that way, and camps and so on, right? Like, that's not really coaching the way I'm describing. Some of it in short terms, but how much of this can you really do in a week? They exist. They are helpful, but they are not what has led to the success that we've had, and this stuff is lacking. If more students had this, the world would be a better place. So if you are someone who is doing coaching, is considering doing coaching, I hope you can provide these things for someone. I have, and it's meant a lot to me. Most of the time I was doing it, it wasn't for a lot of money, if any, really, but it made me a better person. It made me better at debate. It made me better at other things I wanted to do in life. And all of the successes that I've had basically in my life have come as a part of taking on that role and learning to get good at it. So I hope that you have that to look forward to. If you are someone who is looking for a coach, I hope that puts into perspective the role that a good, dedicated coach ought to play and what you're looking for. Some of that stuff will have to do with someone being a good competitor 3 years ago, but most of it doesn't. And I wonder if that's difficult for someone that just graduated high school to do effectively. That's not to say that your coach shouldn't be fresh out of high school, but anyway, that's all I have to say. Yeah, you've been great. I've been Sasan. Sometimes people message me and they're like, Mr. Proteus? My name's not Mr. Proteus. it's Sasan. But yeah. Anyway, take care. Good luck. Let me know what other videos you want to see. Nobody comments on these things. I know the outro is like 40 minutes now, but come on now. We'll get like 130 views in a day, and you just watch silently, and then I don't know what you liked and what you didn't like, or if you hated it. Just help me out. Just be like, hey, one thing that I am curious about is blind. You know what, we're doing the thing. You gotta ask 7 questions, not each of you total. And it's more difficult to enforce now that I can't just hold a long silence until to kind of just make it. But how about this? I will not stop being sad until we get asked 7 questions. So that's on you now. I hope you can live with that. You know who you are. Why are you so... Okay, I'm going to stop this.